Morning, everyone. The reading for our sermon this morning is taken from Gospel according to Matthew, and this is from chapter 7, verse 13. It's entitled The Narrow Gate. Jesus is speaking. He says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the road is easy that leads to destruction, and there are many who take it. For the gate is narrow and the road is hard that leads to life, and there are few who find it." The title of our sermon this morning is very simple. Will you persevere? The concept, the idea of perseverance makes sense to some people, not everybody. Not everybody has yet found the motivation for the thing that matters to them. But those of you who come to the mystical Church of Christ, and who come regularly, and who've been coming for months or years, you have found something. You have found a pathway to the truth. And that pathway is by following Christ, what Jesus calls the truth, the life, and the way. There is a way to get to a place where you are liberated. And what exactly are we trying to be liberated from? We are trying to be liberated from an old and outdated version of ourselves. Have you ever seen pictures of yourself from high school? And many times, first of all, just the quality of the film gives us memory to the time when that was taken. It might be, in some people's cases, it's 35 years, 20 years ago, 40 years ago. The quality of the technology is kind of captured in the photo. Then there's the hairdos, right? There's the clothes, there's the collars, there's the cut of the pants, there's the shoes. Remember that when we dressed that day, it made sense to us and it felt right. The way that we combed our hair, the way that we cut our hair, whatever we did to our appearance, that was indicative of what we thought would look good. When we look back on it, sometimes we go like, wow, what was I thinking? Well, it's because I was in a different mindset. And the spiritual path is very much like that. But from the perspective of the spiritual, not the perspective of the physical. That when our sight begins to open because of studying the Gospels, contemplating the Word of God, meditating every day, receiving communion, listening to a priest who is giving a sermon, listening to a teacher who is trying to help you see something. Sometimes in an instant, it's like, oh my God, I totally get it. How did I not see this? Well, this is why we have a lot of blind people in the Gospels that are healed, because there is this element of continually having your sight opened when you didn't even realize that you couldn't see. And then as soon as you do see, my God, I was blind and now I see. What amazing grace. So we have that here. We have that opportunity because we've decided we want that. We want to go beyond just what a lot of churches teach, which is a good moral framework, and we want to serve the community, and we want to create a place that's welcoming for all, okay? It's all good stuff. But this mystical church and the mystical path is way beyond that. It's about transformation. People come here because we know there is another level of ourselves, a higher level of functioning, and we want it. Now, the pathway through this church is, come hang out, check it out, and if you want to really get into the deep stuff, then explore student life. And student life is when you work one-on-one with a priest or a teacher. And now, we had been enjoying the Word and enjoying the sermons and receiving communion and meditating was going well. And now, all of a sudden, a new level of light comes upon us. And we are seeing things that before we could not see. Because we have asked God, through our decision to become a student, to work more closely with a being that has been through the process and that has been refined and has been ordained to help other beings. now new stuff begins to show up. And it's very exciting because, oh wow, now I see why I've created all these difficulties. And oh, now I see why my relationships tend to go this way because of these wounds I was not able to understand. I thought it was other people's problems. I was blaming my work situation for my unhappiness. I felt obligated to take care of my parents. I realize now that that's not what this life is about. So it's very exciting in the early phases of the project of oneself. But what is typical when you continue on the path is somewhere between the first and second year, the focus begins to shift, and that is a conscious shift away from this all-consuming focus on oneself and one's emotional process and one's wounds and just oneself. That is necessary in the beginning because, you know, those elements were not tended to when we were young. And so finally we are attending to our emotional stuff, and we are unlearning concepts that we have been using to cope with and to manage life. And we are seeing now that some of these coping mechanisms are not healthy, and they're not actually helping us, and they're causing turbulence in our lives. So we're so grateful to see them. It's a little bit difficult to try to learn new things, but because the concepts make sense to us, we apply the effort. But then we reach a point where the focus begins to be about giving, learning how to give more of oneself. And that can appear in many different facets of one's life. One way is just learning how to listen to other people, learning how to be in conversation and not be consumed with sharing my side of it. Yeah, a conversation both people have to share. But I have many conversations during the week where it's a struggle to have the other person listen to what I'm saying. And that's because a lot of people, they don't even realize it. They're very consumed with their version of life, and if the thing that the other person is saying doesn't relate to them, then there's a sort of an internal permission to just kind of ignore it and not even hear it. And we go, no, that's not right. We have to learn how to give by listening. Give by receiving. If somebody gives you a gift or somebody gives you a compliment, that we receive it graciously, and there's an element of giving to that. And then there's just my time. How much time am I willing to give to benefit other people? How much money am I willing to give to the church or to this organization that is struggling to do some sort of a good works? And these elements, these pressures, force us to decide. Do I want to give here or do I not want to give? And it can be a real battle. And it becomes common that somewhere in that second year, people start to wonder, you know, do I really want to persevere as a student in this intense refinement of myself? So I want to read you another passage, and this one is from Luke's Gospel, and it is found in chapter 14. And Jesus is speaking again. He says, "For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost, to see whether there is enough to complete it? Otherwise, when the foundation is laid, and the tower cannot be finished, all who see it will begin to ridicule the builder, saying, 'This person began to build what was not able to finish.' Or what king going out to wage war against another king will not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If not, then, while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for the terms of peace. So therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you do not give up all your possessions." All right. First of all, I want you to understand something very, very important. That one should not feel obliged to persevere on the path, because that obligation, only in rare instances do I think it has value. We are looking within ourselves for that unexplainable drive to know and to love God. I believe it exists within every soul, but it may be dormant, or it may be only so powerful in you right now. Why might that be? Well, there are a lot of really cool things that we can do on this planet. And apparently, seeking out God at the highest level and coming into relationship with the Christ is not perceived in the top 10. Okay, well, not for the world, not for television entertainment, not for, the bulk of millennials, I don't know. For me, it's number one. Why is that? I don't know. I don't really have a good answer. I mean, it might be that lifetime after lifetime, I was able to explore these other things. I was able to have a wife and kids, or a husband and kids, or I was able to build a business empire, or I was able to, be a movie star, or I don't know what I did in my past lives. But in this life, this is the thing that drives me. Now, if you're wanting to have children, you're wanting to have a partner, you're wanting to have a house, and you're wanting to have a very active social life, I mean, those things are fine. We have the earth here, and we have the freedom to do it. So you shouldn't feel bad if you're like, yeah, but I want to do these other things. Because, Jesus said, narrow is the gate and few pass through it. If you want to go through the narrow gate, what did he say? He says, life is hard, that leads to that eternal abundance. Now, at the same time, he said, the other gate is quite wide and many people go through it and it leads to destruction. Well, he's not saying, well, is it okay if, if you're saying, is it okay if I choose husband and kids or wife and kids and just kind of, clean myself up and do some service work and be a good person? Yeah, that's totally fine. That's not the path to destruction. The path to destruction is obsession with ego, clamoring for recognition on this planet, being willing to step all over people to amass your fortune and be seen as someone important. There'll be destruction for you to get there. And as a result, there'll be a karmic trail that at some point, is going to come home to roost. But let's imagine that you are approaching this point of you're trying to find out, will I persevere? Am I okay to take this exit and sort of camp out in this stage that I'm at right now for a while? Well, think of it like this. We, the people, have kind of, over, millennium, have done to the planet that which it is now. We have done to each other. We have created societies that are very separatist, that are very against each other. We have created rules and we have created systems that reward people of this of this color, of this level of wealth, of this level of intelligence. In America alone, we charge the students hundreds of thousands of dollars to get an education. And if you don't have health insurance and you're in trouble, oh man, sorry. There's nothing we can do. Or else you got to go to some dilapidated hospital down the street that won't refuse you, but you might have to sit in the waiting room for 6 or 7 hours. So I want us to take responsibility for that. Whether it was this lifetime or lifetimes in the past, who knows? We are all part of what led to that, including the environment, including how we treat women, and all these things that are slowly but surely being revealed in society. I and you and everybody is responsible. I may have woken up earlier, you may have woken up earlier and stopped contributing to that destruction and demise, but on some level, at some point in my history, I was part of it. And so now, in this life, I totally accept that, and I feel I have to be part of the team that fixes it, that redeems humanity. Okay, first of all, I'm redeemed, and second of all, I contribute. It's like, first of all, somebody repairs all my wounds in my body, and I'm nursed back to health, and they say, okay, here's your shovel, and here's your pen, and now I want you to, dig things and write things and contribute, because we've got to move the energy towards love, and, we need you. Now, that makes sense to me. It makes sense to me because I am part of the problem, or I was. I still am occasionally, but I try really hard not to be, and I really want to make sure I'm part of the solution. And the solution, okay, for some people it's join Greenpeace. For other people it's join Big Brother, Big Sister and help out a child. For some people it's volunteer, Doctors Without Borders. Whatever it is, you have to find your place. But at this level, if you go, I was a contributor to the demise of humanity by my selfishness, by my anger, by my greed, by my laziness, whatever. This lifetime, but definitely in prior lifetimes, and by the grace of God, I was blind, but now I see. I was a wretch, but you saved me, and now, give me the gloves, give me the shovel, give me the pen, give me strength to speak, give me the connection to the Christ, and I will contribute, I will devote my life to trying to move the needle in the direction of love. Okay. Not for everybody. Will you persevere? Well, if you're looking for some justification to persevere, that's what I want you to meditate on. I want you to meditate on, do you connect to the idea that you can help, whether it's 3 people, or 15 people, or 1,000 people, or 1,000,000 people, depending on how well known you get. Are you willing to give your life to move humanity in the direction that God, Jesus, and Mary would like it to go?